listening to the Ecosystem Approach show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Patricia. Tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Transformation Talk Radio.
We discovered that human potential is severely limited when you program humans like a machine, which is standard practice today for self-improvement.
The Ecosystem Approach teaches you how to uncover your infinite potential by using natural methods that are truly revolutionary. Join us now for the Ecosystem Approach show. Today's show is about family terrorism. I know this sounds extreme, but after working with clients with family problems for over 20 years, it is clear to us that terroristic tactics are a common part of family life. What about your family? We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, family terrorism is a very provocative title, but what does it really mean?
I hope that everyone listening today will understand that this is profound, and this is based on our 20 years of experience. We don't see any families that haven't been affected by a form of terrorism that we're going to define today.
Okay.
And I'm going to define terrorism in just a minute, but I just wanted to talk about this just briefly, is that this is a big subject.
It's a huge subject.
And we're not going to get through all of.
I know.
We've got so much stuff written down, but we're not going to get through it all. We've got so many examples, but we're not going to get through those all. But, get your pen and pencil ready, pen and paper.
Pen and paper.
Yes. So, because we're going to tell you how to use the ecosystem approach, because the ecosystem approach is the resolve for family terrorism.
Exactly.
So we're going to tell you about that in just a minute. But so
Okay.
I started out with definitions. Okay.
All right.
This is what regular terrorism is defined as: the calculated use of violence to create a general climate of fear in a population and thereby bring about a particular political objective.
Okay.
So that doesn't really cover family terrorism. So I created our own definition for family terrorism.
By the way, not surprising.
Yes.
For him.
Yeah. Okay. So family terrorism is the calculated use of force, manipulation, and seduction to create a general climate of fear and enslavement in the family, and thereby bring about a particular objective, which may or may not be conscious by those who perpetrate this terrorism.
Okay.
The ultimate family terrorism is targeting those who are the most evolved and have the greatest natural innate abilities and find ways to block that evolution.
Okay.
Even if that motive is not conscious by those who carry out the enslavement or the block.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. We've talked about the mark before. And if you're listening right now, chances are you're a starseed.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about how starseeds have been marked. They've been targeted.
Yes.
Because they're the ones who are the most evolved and the most likely to bring about change in this world today.
Because that's our reason for being here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the way that they're marked is with family terrorism. So we're trying to kind of complete that story. But so let's keep going. Okay. The state of the world today, there's barriers to your ability to grow and evolve like intended. That was the mark.
Okay.
Here's a question that I'm posing, and I never hear it
I've never heard it before.
What's the purpose of a family? It almost seems so obvious, but it's not.
Okay.
And we see, and I'm going to give you a supposed to. I don't like to use supposed to. My supposed tos don't come from a moral place.
Okay.
They come from our ability to see the way it was instinctively designed for us to behave as human beings.
Or what was intended.
Yes.
Okay.
It's sort of like a um, uh, uh, I would say machine code, but that's for geeks. And I know, I suspect that my wife doesn't even know what machine code is. So that's not meant to be condescending. It's just the basic. It's the foundation of how we're supposed to, the instincts that we would all have naturally if we weren't blocked.
Okay.
And that block comes from, of course, programming.
Yes.
So,
and by the way, we've talked about programming in every single show we've done, I believe.
Yes. So keep listening. But so what is the purpose of the family? Well, the purpose of the family is to develop self-knowledge for those who, the children.
Yes.
The family is to create a safe space for children to grow up and understand who they are, self-knowledge,
okay,
and what their purpose is.
Okay.
So when they leave home, if they do leave home, they have the basics. Who am I? What am I here to do?
Okay.
But almost no one.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that certainly didn't happen in my family.
And do you know any families that's happened
No,
in?
I don't. I thought I'd start with mine though.
And that's the problem. It didn't happen in my family. And there are a lot of people that have come to us and said, well, yeah, my childhood wasn't that bad. It was.
Oh yeah,
I
love that one.
It was pretty normal, blah, blah, blah. But if you start to unpack it, then some of these things come out. So we're going to be talking about that today. Oh my gosh.
And by the way, when you start to unpack it, I've actually had people say to me, why did you even tell me that? I don't need, that's not something I want to know.
Yeah.
But you're wearing it.
Here's the problem is no one wants to know it, but it affects you. And so when people come to us and say, well, I don't know why I keep choosing the wrong man.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or the wrong mate in a marriage, or how come my kids are acting out? That's where you go. Even if they come to us with a business problem and say, I don't know why my business isn't being more successful. Right. I guarantee you it goes back to that family terrorism. Yes. And you have to uncover it and then clear it with energy techniques.
Okay. So Jason, I can feel it out there. Somebody's saying, what do you mean family terrorism? What are you talking about?
Well, we're going to give you examples all during the show. Okay. And the hardest one is really when there's alcoholism, drug abuse, sexual abuse, right, or even physical abuse in a family. That's easy to point to.
Yes.
Okay? That's obvious bad behavior, but the worst toxic behaviors happens behind closed doors.
Well, all of those things happen that Jason was just talking about. They do happen behind closed doors, but there's kind of this given of, well, every family is going to have at least one of those.
Well, if you had, a physical abuse or sexual abuse or alcoholism, people just kind of know that was kind of a toxic environment growing up. So even if they didn't know it in the time, everybody else didn't know it at the time.
That's correct.
When you grow up, you know it is.
You figure it out.
The people that are the most confused who have the white picket fence, and it still looks like the white picket fence.
Well, one of our first stories is about my friend, my best friend growing up. I thought that she had this perfect family, and but when it came time to go home, it was, she didn't dawdle to get out the door. She got out the door. But if she was 5 minutes late, and by the way, I didn't find this out until a few years ago, but if she got out the door 5 minutes late, she would pay a price, of course, as soon as she walked through the door, but she would pay a price that entire evening and sometimes for an entire week.
So the story is, for that is that you were estranged, you had lost touch with her.
Yes.
And she finally found you a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And you had grown up with her. How old were you when you
we met in the 6th grade.
Okay.
Yes.
So your childhood friends, and when you reconnected, she was able to validate for you all the things that happened to you.
Yes.
That you thought you were crazy because your family said, oh, that didn't happen. They
more often than not, and not from just one family member, but several family members said to me, that didn't happen.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
But what the best thing was for me was she validated that it not only happened, but that I wasn't crazy. In other words, I wasn't just making this up in my head.
Well, and the other thing that she shared was the fact that you thought she had a perfect life because yours
I
wasn't.
did, yes,
You know,
yes, and she saw that mine wasn't.
and when you met with her, when you reconnected,
Yes,
you saw that all the toxicity from her so-called perfect family had
well,
she was really sick.
She was really sick. She was wearing it. She had gained excess weight, and she was to the point where she could barely move. And
She had
that
heart problems, she had vertigo, she had all sorts of,
exactly,
all sorts of problems, and those were the direct result of that toxic family.
exactly.
And so um, we see the relationships here.
Yes,
It looked like a
yes,
perfect family, but
yeah,
that family terrorism really hurt her.
exactly.
So there's and I know
We're running late.
we're running late, but there's a couple more things here.
Okay.
Here are some of the, if you don't know your purpose and you don't know who you are, then some of these common family implementations don't make any sense, like following in your parents' footsteps,
Right.
having money. The family's organized so that all the kids will graduate college and be prosperous.
Right.
Caretaking, taking care of a family member that needs it, sacrificing your life. I'm gonna work hard so you can go to college.
Right.
I'm gonna sacrifice myself so you go to college.
Right.
Protecting. I'm gonna protect. Blue Bloods is a great
show
example
for that. Yes.
Yes, they talk about we're gonna protect each other.
Yes.
Taking over the family business, even creating values and characters.
Right.
That's always subjective. It can be really toxic. So if the dad thinks that a man is a man and one of his sons is sensitive or artistic or whatever,
and he classifies him as not being a man,
then that could be real. He's trying to build character, trying to build values. That sounds great on paper, but it can go awfully badly.
Exactly. So Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
Family terrorism creates toxic relationships that may or may not be visible internally or externally.
Okay.
Family terrorism enslaves members who have a drive to evolve but are stopped and blocked. The purpose of the family should be to support self-knowledge and understanding of individual purpose, but it almost never happens.
Right.
And the ecosystem approach helps you develop consciousness so you can know your purpose, and so you could remove the blocks and live your life the way it's supposed to.
In the next segment, we're going to talk about some types of family terrorism techniques and examples. This may sound very familiar to you. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about some types of family terrorism techniques and examples. This may sound very familiar to you. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, this topic needs a lot of examples. Can you give us some examples of how family terrorism works or is?
Yes, we're going to give you lots of examples here.
Okay.
And we're going to go through some terroristic techniques that may sound very, very familiar to you. This first one, the truth is that we didn't argue about it, but we struggled with it because it could go both ways, and that's about motive.
Sure.
One of the things that happens in most families is keeping secrets.
Absolutely.
And it can be so toxic.
Mm-hmm.
However, I understand that we both understand that in this world today, having little Johnny go to the neighbors and talk about all sorts of things.
You can't imagine the amount of trouble I got in for that.
Well, and human beings are designed to tell the truth.
They are.
It's natural to us. It's innate. That's why, lie detection technology is, your body has a physiological reaction when you lie.
Yeah.
It doesn't like to lie.
No.
And a little kid doesn't like to lie, likes to tell the truth.
Sure.
And so how do you tell a child not to talk, but then not have them keep secrets? I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so I guess I'm allowing for the fact that there may be situations where you tell a child to keep this a secret.
Yes. Well, my friend Maggie, she was not allowed to tell that it was that
things were bad, right? And that was very toxic for her.
And I'm sorry for saying her name. It just,
and she wore it.
She did. In the end, she wore it. Not in the beginning, but
really,
in the end.
really sad for us. And frankly, she just recently passed away. So we're talking about her. We feel really bad. She connected with both of us, and
I miss her terribly.
Yeah, but all the things that, including the secrets, just were attached, and they got worse, and they got worse, and they got worse. And we've been saying this all along with the ecosystem approach, but these negative energies, they don't go away unless you clear them. You use an energy process to get rid of them.
Well, and usually they become very toxic.
Yes.
And you end up wearing them.
Exactly.
And that's one of the biggest problems. I just want to say one of the secrets that my friend, she didn't find out the truth until she was over 18. That her father had committed suicide. She was told that her father died from pneumonia. And the dilemma in the family was whether to tell the kids the truth or not. And the bottom line is that when my friend found out that the truth about what had really happened to her father, she was livid.
She was angry and devastated
and hurt.
And because she could have probably heard that information a lot younger in a way that would have
helped her understand why it wasn't to be known by everyone out there.
Why the family was the way it was.
Yes.
Yes. Kids don't understand why all this craziness is in the family.
It's true.
And so here are the first things, the first terrorist techniques, secrets, propaganda, and psychological operations.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The propaganda, my mother told me when I was very young, oh, your dad loves you and he'll do anything for you and he's such a good dad and blah, blah, blah. And it was propaganda. And she believed it. She believed, she sincerely believed it. And she didn't have a bad motive, but she was trying to cover up what we now know was some of his mental illness.
Yes.
And bad behavior.
Yes. Exactly.
Psychological operations, that was a term that they have had those in the Army.
Okay.
When I was in military intelligence and we did psychological operations.
Okay.
They do that in the family.
Mm-hmm.
That, oh my
exactly.
gosh, my father lost his job and tried to start his own business, but we lived in a neighborhood that was fairly affluent. We couldn't have friends. We couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
The shame was so good. We couldn't talk about it. I couldn't drive when I was a teenager. I couldn't date because unless I did a double date with someone else,
right.
Or have my dad drive me. Of course, you know how much teenagers love to have that, and I couldn't talk about it to anybody. There was growing up with that. That was a psychological operation.
Yes.
That shame.
I was going to say held you in check.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. It really, 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 it really did.
So another good one is manipulations and fear, withholding love and attention.
Yes.
Here's the ultimate, and you have a story about that, about your mother on her deathbed.
My mother had secrets of her own, and we all knew she was dying. And I have a mentally disabled sister. By the time I was asked this question, my mentally disabled sister lived in a form of a state home, but we went and got her anywhere from 4 to 6 to even 8 times a year. And my mother, she didn't ask my other sisters or my brothers. She only asked me
On her deathbed.
on her deathbed
To promise.
She made me promise that I would go get my sister, my mentally disabled sister. And by the way, it took a lot to do, not for her to ask me, but to go get my sister, because she required so much attention. And it was devastating, meaning that it was so draining that when the day would come up, such as Easter, her birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, those kind of things, the biggest thing wasn't cooking dinner and wasn't doing
being together as a family.
It was having to deal with my sister and all that she required as a person. And it was devastating. But the thing that was the most amazing was, after my mother's death, I finally realized how unfair it was and how not right it was. And I sat my sisters down and I said, I need help here. And I was quite surprised they actually gave it to me.
So money is often a manipulation too.
Okay.
We've worked with a lot of well-to-do families.
Yes.
Clients, and the psychological operations, the fear instilled by how you deal with money and what you don't do with money,
yes,
who you marry if you have money, and oh my gosh, it was very, very toxic, and the manipulations were just unbelievable, and even when someone makes it, they can manipulate generations,
down the line.
2 and 3 generations, by having certain requirements.
Correct.
In terms of how that money is used going forward. It can be really horrific.
Yes.
So,
yes. Well, but the most important thing here, Jason, is the black and white thinking, the black and white understanding of things.
So it's not black and white. It's not good and evil. And everything is in a combination. And this is what throws people off so much, because when we talk about family terrorism, we'll hear a story about, that SOB had sex with me, was having sex with me all my childhood. Well, that seems like a really obvious black and white, but it's never that way. What about the mother? What about the other people in the family?
Correct.
Did they know? Did they not know?
Yes.
And what were their motives?
Correct.
Maybe the mother kept silent, but she had a good motive, because it was actually keeping everybody else safe by not speaking up. There's all sorts of situations.
Correct.
It's not for us to judge, but that need to blame comes from programming.
Exactly. And I want to say, if that's the case in your family, and
incest or sexual abuse,
exactly, that's that sort of thing, and you want to blame, I need to say, start by doing the ecosystem approach today, because the person you're blaming the most is you.
It always turns back on you.
It does. And it turns on you.
Anger and need for revenge. It's an energy.
Exactly.
That turns back on yourself.
Or the depression about it all. I should have done something. I knew about my sister and I should have done something, that kind of thing. The bottom line is that when you start using the ecosystem approach, what happens is you start clearing away the negative energies that you've been handed, so to speak, and you start to see the truth of them. But what you also see is you also start to see the truth of what you can start to do today.
Well, and when you use an ecosystem approach, the opposite of blame is forgiveness. And oh my gosh, there's so much misinformation about that.
Right.
A lot of people see it as a verb. It's not something that you do. It's a natural, it happens naturally when you remove those negative emotions.
Well, and
that you've been hurt with.
Exactly.
And that takes a while.
And that helps you understand the blame that you're heaving on yourself.
We've seen so many people who forgive prematurely and have all this negative energy that's stuck inside them.
Exactly.
Because they've forgiven that person, so they can't be angry with them.
Right.
So where does that anger go? It goes all over the place, and it's really toxic.
Well, and I'm going to make one small point here. that breast cancer, of course, for women is the most common type of cancer. And if you think about it, you take that toxic energy and you hold it close to your heart, you hold it close to your breast, so to speak, and it becomes toxic for you. Start today with the ecosystem approach, and I know you'll get results, positive results from it.
Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org, sign up for our free section. We'll tell you some more about that later. It's completely free. We won't bug you, any of that, but
Right.
you'll get our weekly newsletter, and that has clearings that you can start using to
Today.
help heal that pain and that negative energy.
Exactly. So Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
One more thing I want to say is the evolved consciousness.
Okay.
You have to have evolved consciousness. That's where the black and white doesn't work.
And you do that with the ecosystem approach.
You can see the different layers that maybe this person's motive was good, but they turned it around over here.
Absolutely.
And it's much more complex than just black and white.
So key points.
Two families can use the same energy, but the motives make the difference in the outcome.
Okay.
It takes evolved consciousness to see these strategies on each individual in the family.
Yes.
And family terrorism is never absolutely good or evil. It's always layered, and you have to see it and how it affects you and other members of the family.
Correct.
And the ecosystem approach shows you how to have evolved consciousness so you can sort through the family terrorism.
In the next segment, we're going to talk about what you can do if you have been the subject of family terrorism and where to go with the hurt and the pain that you've carried for a really long time. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about what you can do if you have been the subject of family terrorism and where to go with the hurt and the pain that you've been carrying around for a really long time. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the ecosystem approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Okay, Jason, I'm sure everyone can see the toxic effects and hurts from the examples, but for the listener right now, they could be confused about what they should do next. Everyone has felt effects of family terrorism. Where do they start?
You always start with yourself. The ability to see and perceive the subtleties of bad motives and toxic effects on others is an energetic process. It's not something you can figure out.
Right.
It's not something you can hear, read a book or hear us talking about it and say, oh yeah, that, it might create some associations, some connections, but the real clarity is when you start clearing the energy. Now we know this is so clear to us, is that after we've been doing this for over 20 years, after 10 years, we saw quite a bit.
We did.
But after 20 years, we see so much more.
And
it's hard to believe that we could see that much more after those 10 years.
And we wouldn't have thought that would have been the case, but it's true.
These subtleties and nuances that might be subtleties and nuances for other people or not make much sense or be that big a deal to other people.
True.
For your family and your family terrorism, it's a huge deal.
Yes.
And to know the motives more clearly and to know the reasonings more clearly and how it all worked is really, really helpful.
Yes.
So it has to be an energetic process. And seeing dark energy is always sandwiched within someone, within yourself, first of all.
Yes.
And then with someone else. It's never black and white. We've never seen anybody who's pure evil, nor have we seen anybody that's pure light, and including ourselves.
Well, no, I'm making a joke there, but it's true. We have been trained because of programming that everything is black and white. And it's not.
It's not. And so you have to start with first understanding your own motives.
Mhm.
And when you understand your own motives, then you can start to see other people's motives.
Yes.
And how complex they are. And they're not just straightforward, or they're not just black and white. And we're not trying to give anybody a pass. In fact, as we see this more and more clearly, some people we are more judgmental of in our family,
Yes.
and some we're less,
Yes.
because we see it more clearly.
Yes.
And those subtleties, those fine lines are so important. And you do it with the ecosystem approach. You do it with the energy approach that we teach you for self-knowledge.
Yes.
To go inward and to see yourself as you really are. And that's when you start to see, okay, yeah, maybe I thought I was this way. Propaganda for yourself. Well, your own propaganda is always the worst.
And I would say, I know that one firsthand. I thought I was this way. Then I realized I wasn't that way at all, but I had to forgive myself. What I had to do was clear myself and stop blaming myself for the way I thought it was supposed to be.
We think that forgiving is changing the energy, and when we look at it, we don't see that happening. No. We don't see people when they forgive themselves, whatever that means. I don't know what that means exactly.
Right.
But it really it hurts. It doesn't really change the energy that's attacking. And a lot of times when you see your own motives, or you see yourself more clearly, it's better than you thought.
Yes.
It's not always worse.
Yes.
So,
true.
And it's different for different people.
Exactly.
So,
and the other thing is it's a lot of it has to do with your purpose.
Yeah.
When you start to understand what your purpose is, then you can see, oh, now I know why I was doing this or that, because that was part of my purpose.
So, if you want to change the world for the better, you have to look at family terrorism and how it's affected you.
Yes.
But we've noticed that as we go through this process, we've got nudges, blocks, and even attacks, and we clear our way through it, and we are always better on the other side.
Yes.
But there's always a resistance as we go inward further and further to see this dark, evil energy more clearly.
Yes.
There's always a pushback. And it's not going to kill you. It's not going to, it may seem awful in the moment, but then you clear your way through and you say, oh my gosh, this wasn't so bad.
Exactly.
I got this.
So, exactly.
And I know we're moving a lot of energy for Patricia. That's why she's yawning. It's not that we're bored with this topic at all.
Never.
But it's never about blame. And that we've been talking about blame, but programming wants to see the world as good or bad, right or wrong.
Right.
And the righteous one versus the evil one. It's never that right, never that clear.
Yeah.
We're taught to find the one to blame, so we can fix the problem. Well, and then everything's okay. But it doesn't work that way.
And I want to say this as an example. In my family, I was chosen to be the one to blame. I was the one who was chosen to be the one that things were my fault. And it was very, very, very difficult when I started to realize that I was being who I was, who I am, and I was being blamed for it. What a lot of wasted time that I heaved on myself with this blame that.
Because you assimilated that blame and said that everybody must be right. There must be something
wrong.
Well,
I mean, when you have 10 people that are saying you're the one that's wrong, or that you did this wrong, or you, the way you see it is wrong, you're the problem. But when you finally realize that might not have been the exact truth.
And for star seeds, that always happens.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
A lot.
And so it takes patience to overcome these things, and it takes patience to apply the ecosystem approach.
Yes.
But here's the thing. It's so much quicker than using methods like programming that are not sustainable, that don't work, that or work only for a short period of time and then peter out.
Yes.
And we're seeing the effects of programming on the whole populace.
By all means.
We see it with my mother. We see it with people that are aging. not the best among us are not the oldest among us.
No.
The best as you get older, you become grumpy
Well, that's
and
because those toxic energies, they
build up.
start to fester.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's, it's breast cancer again. Yes, women get breast cancer all of their lives. Do not misunderstand me. But the biggest amount is usually after the age of 50.
Well, and it's a metaphor.
Yes.
It's a buildup of that negative energy of misogyny and abuse in the family.
Correct.
That misogyny in a family that's male dominated.
Yes.
It's women trying to metaphorically say that feminine part of me is what has no value, and
Yes.
that's why they're getting
Or,
breast cancer.
Or you're telling me that feminine part of
Yes.
me has no,
Right.
and I'm believing you.
Yes.
Because of programming.
Propaganda.
Exactly. And by the way, it's not true. I just want to say that, but I want to say, start with yourself today. And start with yourself
the way
today.
you do that is go to our website right now,
Yes.
the ecosystemapproach.org. Sign up for a free section. You get a weekly newsletter and clearings every week. We're going to do clearings in just a minute.
Yes, we are.
And you need to have those clearings, and that's how you start. It's that simple.
Well, and you know what? I need to say this because I'm the biggest example of that the clearing works, and it works really well. I have learned to love myself in a way. I have my moments, but in a way, I have learned to love myself and believe that I did come here for a purpose, and I'm not about to let. This is what I came up with. I am not about to let negative energy stop me from what I came here to do.
And that learning was an energy process,
was
not a cognitive process.
Exactly. Yes. And it happened through the ecosystem approach. So with all of that said, Jason, what are the key points of this segment? Then we'll tell everyone how to clear.
Overcoming family terrorism has to start with yourself. Clear the hurt and pain. You have to clear enough of the hurt and pain before you can see other people's motives, especially for those who are close.
Yes.
The need to blame is always dark energy. And whether you feel it or you're numb to it, it's toxic for you.
Exactly.
And the ecosystem approach is a way to heal your family terrorism that has affected you and keep you from repeating it in your own family.
Exactly. So, Jason, let's tell everyone how to do the clearing. And then in the next segment, we're going to do a whole list of clearings. And by the way, sign up today and you can actually get those list of clearings so you can do them all week long.
Yes. So it's very simple. You don't have to be sitting in a reverent position. You can stand, sit, walk, lay down, stand on your head. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A lot of times I know that I'm clearing sometimes when I'm talking with someone.
Yes.
Do it. You can do it in your
I
mind.
find myself doing it in the middle of the night. I'll wake up and I'm clearing something.
Yes,
it's like,
yes,
oh, okay.
Exactly. So when we say to eliminate, in your mind's eye, picture what we say to eliminate, whether it's an emotion or veils and illusions or barriers, whatever it is, gather those up in your body and blow them into the processor.
Jacob should be putting up a picture of the
processor. Yes, a picture of the processor on the screen.
Yes.
And blow it into that. And if you go to our website and sign up for the free section, there's a picture of the processor you can download there, and you can print it out and cut it out and put it on your
desk or in your wallet or whatever.
Yeah.
Then after we do all that, then we're going to activate life force energy. Life force energy is the most powerful energy that any of us has access to. And what it does is it just balances things out for us. It is amazing. So stay with us. Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to do clearings to help you uncover the family terrorism in your life. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to do clearings to help you uncover the family terrorism in your life. Jason, here we go.
I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the barriers so I can begin to see the family terrorism that has affected me in my life. Take a breath, blow it into that processor.
And by the way, blowing it into the processor keeps you from just throwing it on the ground and getting up and walking into it again. And we're going to continue with this, and to eliminate the barriers so I can see my upbringing more objectively without blame, that I turn on myself. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the intense feelings of worry, anxiety, and hate I have about the way I was treated as a child.
Take a breath. You don't need that fear and that hate. You don't need it, or even the shame. It doesn't serve anything. And to eliminate the feelings of fear and hurt and shame that I've been carrying around way too long. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see the motives for all those who participated in family terrorism in my life.
Take a breath. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see the motives for all, oh, excuse me, that's the wrong one. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see, I can clear the hurt and pain I've been carrying from my upbringing. Take a breath.
That's a big one. And to eliminate any feelings of fear and terror that still haunt me and keep me from my confidence that comes from family terrorism. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that similar traumas can affect everyone differently, especially in my own family. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any intense anger or resentment I have because of the way I was treated. I can keep clearing that.
Yes.
You don't have to keep that.
And by the way, that's what I've done for the last 20 years. Take a breath. And to eliminate any resistance I have to uncovering my emotional story first, then clear the pain. By the way, it works. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that evil is never absolute. It's always layered, and it's up to me to reconcile.
Yes.
It's a biggie.
And to eliminate the hate and anger I have about family members who have hurt me. The hate hurts me. I don't need it. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any numbness or blocks I have to anger, hurt, and pain I have from my childhood.
Take a breath. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that the evil has affected those in my family. That's interesting. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that family terrorism is way too common, and the healing has to start with me.
Yes. Take a breath. Let's activate some life force. Here we go. Follow me. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to activate life force energy so I can be happy and healthy and have clarity, awareness, and objectivity that I need and want, so I can start this process today and know that I'm going to be okay. Take a breath.
And to activate life force so I can have hope to heal the family terrorism that has affected me in my life.
Yes, take a breath.
So many people are hopeless about their ability to ever take care of it.
It's true.
Ever heal it.
And to activate life force so I can trust and understand that healing takes time, but the benefits are worth it. And what I want you to do right now is pull in that life force energy right in through the top of your head. Let it go all the way down your body to the tips of your toes. Stop it at the tips of your toes and ask it right now to turn around and get rid of any negative energy left over. Take a breath and blow it out.
And to activate life force so I can decide to see my terrorism family story, my family terrorism story, and heal and clear it, starting with myself.
Take a breath. And to activate life force, pulling it in through the top of our head right now, so I can be happy and healthy and creative and have the clarity, awareness, and objectivity that I need and want, and have fun and learn to love myself and love others, and know that by using the ecosystem approach, It's one of the best things I can do ever in all of my lifetime, in all of this lifetime, starting right now. Take a breath, let it go all the way in, and blow out any negative energy left over. Jason, what are we going to talk about next week?
Creating a 3D mind in a 2D world.
Okay.
And so this is related to what we're talking about today. Okay.
Truly.
Most of us think in black and white.
Yes.
Good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
Evil and not evil, evil
Mm-hmm.
and the light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not that simple. It's
Mm-hmm.
never that simple.
Okay.
And but it's more than that.
Okay.
Most of us are taught to say, what's the problem? Here's the solution.
Okay.
You know, that's 2D. Thinking in terms of what's my objective? Focus on my objective. Narrow your focus.
Okay.
We miss so much because we're two-dimensional. You know, problem, solution. What's my objective?
Okay.
Focusing on my objective.
Okay.
When that happens, there's hurt and pain and abuse and family terrorism that happens all around us.
Yes.
I guarantee you
that affects us.
The unfriendly work situations come from people who were terrorized growing up
in their families.
Yes, had family terrorism.
Exactly.
So it's what the world is creating. We're living in a world that has created all these dysfunctions. You've got to listen to the show. You can't be a technological person and overcome the artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all these technology things, having a 2D mind.
Okay.
So be sure and listen next Monday.
So if today's show affected you, touched your heart, made you think, one of the best things that you can do, and I'm getting ready to choke, one of the best things that you can do is to start to use the ecosystem approach today, because it will change your life. And those things that touched you from your childhood, they can stop affecting you in a negative way. And you can remember them, but you don't have to be affected by them by using the ecosystem approach.
After doing this for 20 years, all the people that come to us, there's some form of family terrorism.
Absolutely.
And so what do? Well, we start unpacking it. We start clearing it for them.
Yes.
We start seeing it. And when they can see it and say, oh my gosh,
yes,
I see it, but now I don't feel that pain as much anymore.
Exactly.
That's what you need to do.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter what the topic is. You notice that our topics that we talk about every week are different.
They are.
You know, so how do you get started? It's very simple. Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org. Sign up for our free section. Do the clearings every week. Listen to our show every week. And you're going to start with the ecosystem approach. It's all for free.
Yeah.
We're not asking you to pay us anything for that. Just sign up, do that, and start clearing and start seeing a benefit for yourself.
Okay. And Jason, what about hello@theecosystemapproach.org?
You want to send us a message, you can send us a message at hello@theecosystemapproach.org.
Okay. We'll connect next week, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and you're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia.
Remember, your ecosystem is the most important one in the world.
Thank you for listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. I'm Patricia. Tune in every week as we discuss practical ways to apply the ecosystem approach and develop your potential to live your life on your terms. For more information, visit our website at theecosystemapproach.org.